order. Can we have the call of order, or invocation and pledge of allegiance, please?
Merciful Creator, your hand is open wide to satisfy the need of every living creature. Make us thankful for your loving providence, and grant that we, remembering the account that we must one day give, may be faithful stewards of your good gifts. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have the roll call, please?
We're missing a bunch of people.
Councilman Lance Smith.
Here.
Mayor Scott Tremblay. Mayor Camille Hernandez. Commissioner Rob Oakley.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Moore.
Here.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey.
Here?
Commissioner Mike Wells. Commissioner Jack Mariano.
Here.
Chairman Jeff Starkey.
Here. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the call for public input. If anyone from the public would like to address the board, now would be the time to do so.
Yes, indeed, sir. I'm here for awareness of, for studying for the Pasco County bus system.
Absolutely. If you could come up to the microphone. Manny, could you help drop that mic forward, please?
This is my first, I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. Thank you, Manny.
I never thought I'd do this in 50 years. I've been here. Okay, there we go. Anyway, I've lived here 50 years and...
Ma'am, I'm sorry. Can we have your name and address to start?
Oh,
Sorry to
I'm
interrupt.
sorry. I'm sorry. Laverne Raposa, R-A-P-O-S-A, 14820 Sundance Drive, Dade City, Florida, 33523.
Thank you.
And I'm here to make y'all aware that we need more funding for the paratransit with the PCPT. I can't take the big buses because I get stuck in the sand. And I feel like we need more, because every time I call, there's never a bus available. And so I would like y'all to be aware of that, and also please fund it so I can get out more. I'm going nuts. You can only talk to your cat so much. But no, that's my issue.
She's looking for
No, where do you
Dade
live?
City.
Dade City.
Yes, I live out by Pasco Hernando State College.
Okay.
Our transit guy's back there, maybe you guys can go have a conversation.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I didn't know this is my first.
Could you get Laverne your card, and y'all can... Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today.
Kurt's coming up to speak to you now, so you want to go out to the side here?
Is there anyone else? Then we'll move on to approval of meeting minutes from September 12th, 2019.
Second.
So we don't have the minutes ready by the clerk, so we're just not available at this time.
Okay. When they are available,
like, I
it looks
haven't-
like we're ready to
haven't
approve.
read them
MPO Advisory Committee reports. We have Kelly Miller, who's doing the Citizens Advisory Committee report today.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Kelly Miller, 5020 McCaslin Drive, Newport Richey, Florida, 34652. Just want to say it's been a while since I stood up here, and it's great to see everybody again. Thank you so much for all the new things that you have done over the last probably 6 months since I was able to see you all again. We've really seen great, tremendous improvement, not only through the CAC, but just some of the topics that we're talking about and some of the great, exciting projects that are coming up. So thank you for all your hard work. We did approve some action items, the TIP amendments for the PL funds and the US 19 pedestrian safety project. We also recommend approval for the UPWP amendment for PCPT and the 2045 LRTP cost feasible plan update. A couple of things that were really important for us that we did take note of is that we did get a new member to the CAC, Mr. Larry Guilford, who was appointed for District 1 through Commissioner Ron Oakley, and we did recommend his approval to come onto the board, so thank you very much. We also did approve Rob Serkiw, who is our vice chair right now, to be the T-BARDA CAC member representing the Pasco MPO. As most of you probably know, I am the representative for Commissioner Starkey on the T-BARDA CAC, so now we have two voices from Pasco in that T-Bar arena, which is extremely helpful. Rob's a tremendous person, sits in Commissioner Moore's district. He does a great job. He volunteered, by the way. We didn't have to volunteer him to do it, so it was nice. Also, concerning Councilman Smith's appointee of Melanie Munson, we were asking, hopefully from the CAC, if we could switch Mr. Pete Odom to the alternate and have Melanie be the actual appointee, since she is the one attending meetings. So I'm not sure if you all need to vote on that, but that's our request. And we heard the fantastic status reports that you're going to hear today.
So
And
we have an agenda item. During that agenda item, we can also amend this.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Just remind us, Manny.
perfect. And our Chair, Jose Cardenas, is keeping the 5441 project in the foreground for us as CAC. And most of our members, or most of our meetings are going to be geared around a lot more activity that's happening on 54. So we're really well aware as citizens of what's happening here, and hopefully we can bring you back some important information for you to make some great decisions. You guys are doing a fantastic job. I mean, you really are. I've been doing this probably now 5 years, and I am just really impressed. So truly, thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions or comments for Kelly while she's up? No? Thank
Thanks
you
for
very much,
filling in
Kelly.
for Jose.
We'll move on to the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, BPAC. Dr. Stovall.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We had a great meeting. Unfortunately, it wasn't well attended by our members this time, but you have some like that. And we were really pleased. In the part of the long-range transportation plan report, we heard that there's additional funding going into bicycle pedestrian issues, which is great, because we know that safety is paramount. And to that end, we spent some time talking about the Northeast safety plan that, if you may recall, a few years ago, we had a consultant that came and spent a lot of time talking to bike riders who ride all these roads out here in northeast part of the county. And we got a list of things to improve that from that report. Unfortunately, the price tag to do those things was very, very long. So I was really pleased to hear that staff has been spending some time in trying to find the things that you could do quickest with the money that you might could get, so we don't have to delay the whole thing because we don't have the money for the whole thing, but maybe we can get the most effective things first. So I think you're going to see something coming out from staff fairly soon on that. They've been spending the summer on it. So that was very, very good. And that's really our report.
Thank you, Dr. Stovall. Mr. Starkey.
I'm not an expert on this, but
Yeah.
I'm sure someone around here is. I know that there is the ability to get some money for safety, and Hernando County used it. I've mentioned it here before, to do wider shoulders on their
Yes.
roads.
Yes.
And so that would be, I think, some low-hanging fruit that we could go after. I don't think that pot of money is the same as what we deal with here. I think it's.
Okay, a different pot.
I think, but like I said, but I would research that. Second, I've been talking to a gentleman who's interested in getting more involved in bike trails. His name's Dave Secunda, and he has offered to help put together a committee for the Orange Belt Trail as it's starting to, when we get going.
Yes.
I think we need some citizen input on that, especially in the Land O'Lakes, how it affects the Land O'Lakes,
Yes.
and how we can use it to its Land O'Lakes' best advantage. So he's going to be coming to your BPAC
Good,
meeting. His name's
good.
David, and I
Okay.
hope we can get more people and
Yes.
have this little subcommittee for the Orange Belt Trail.
That'll be great. And our Land O'Lakes committee member, Joel Jackson,
Okay?
is very interested in that, and he was park director in the city of Tampa and in Hillsborough County before he retired. He lives here now, so he would be very excited, I think, to work on that too.
Great.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Mr. Oakley.
Dr. Stovall and
Yes,
I
sir.
were speaking yesterday. Manny, have you heard anything about, we'd asked about having some signs put out like at Blanton and Trilby Road?
So we're working with the traffic operations. Hopefully we get some done by them, because they're gonna be implementing it, putting signs
Right.
on there.
So, I mean, you know, we asked that a long time ago, it seems like, and it just seems like nothing's happening, so. It's one of those things we need, it's for safety and,
Right.
on our roadways, so that's one thing we need to really look at and
Thank
try to
you.
get those up.
We'll take care of it,
Yeah,
Commissioner.
good.
Okay?
Good.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
Anyone else? Thank you, Dr. Stovall.
thank you.
Move on next to action items. Approval of CAC member for District 1 Meeting. Is this the action item you're saying we make a amendment to the motion?
So basically, this is a request by Commissioner Oakley to, has an appointment for the CAC. Mr. Larry Guilford is his representative on the CAC
You want
board.
to have him come up beside you while you introduce him?
Yeah.
For those who don't know him, a lot of you do know him, but he's got an organization called Make a Difference also that he does quite a bit of good work around the area. So Larry, if you want to state your name and address.
Sure. Larry Guilford, 12238 Tradition Drive, Dade City, Florida, 33525.
Yeah. But Larry's been doing a lot of good work in our area, and he'll be good on this committee, so, great.
Move approval.
Mr. Chair, I just, and I'm not, I approve you, but I have to make an amendment to the,
Yes.
to the motion that I'd like to make Melanie Munson my primary designation to the CAC and put Pete Odom as my alternate.
You okay with the amendment?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Anything further? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Welcome.
All
Welcome.
right.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
your service. And we have a tip amendment for PL funds.
Right, this is basically an amendment to match our UPWP, our MPO budget with the TIP. Several months back, the MPO approved us carrying over $350,000 from our unspent money from 17-18. And what we're doing, just for consistency, we're also reflecting the same amount in the TIP. And also, we're asking the MPO board to authorize the chair to sign the planning agreement updated with the new dollar amount.
Any questions?
Move approval?
Second.
First and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Minnie. And then tip amendment for US 19 pedestrian safety project.
Right, this is a TIP amendment to fund some pedestrian safety improvements along at 4 intersections, Ritchie Drive, Gulf Drive, Marine Parkway, and Continental Drive. These are, the improvements include crosswalks, pedestrian signals, ramps, and markings at the signals, and it's tune of about $314,000 to be spent on US 19 for safety improvements. We're asking the MPO to approve this amendment.
Move approval?
Second, but a question, by ramps, are those the sidewalks that are for wheelchair folks? What do you
Yeah.
mean by ramps?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what those are called? Like, I just didn't know the technical term.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then approval of member for T-BARDA Citizens Advisory.
Right, so Pasco County gets 2 representatives on the T-BARDA CAC. One is Commissioner Starkey's representative, Ms. Kelly Miller, and the second was Christy Zimmer, but she retired from the CAC. And the CAC actually took a vote to have Mr. Rob Serkiu, an existing member of the MPO CAC, to be the second representative from Pasco County on the T-BARDA CAC.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, man. And UPWP amendment, PCPT Section 5307 funds.
Right, so this is a coordination between the MPO and Pasco County Public Transportation. Mr. Kurt Scheibel wants to utilize his 5307 funds. These are federal funds for transit activities that he's anticipating in this upcoming year, about $800,000 in support of his, as I said, transit planning program in Pasco County, and we need to reflect that in the UPWP. In your agenda item, they're highlighted in yellow, some of the required activities that we will utilize these funds for. Asking for the MPO for the approval of this amendment.
You have a motion?
Move approval?
Second.
First and a second. All those in favor?
Quick discussion.
Aye.
Discussion, excuse me. Mr. Moore?
Just since we're talking about the LRTP, everybody here was gracious enough to add Old Pasco back to the LRTP last year. We've had discussions about funding mechanisms. We still need to move forward with this. We can't lag on it. If you're not familiar with the Performing Arts Center that's being built there now, they're opening up a new middle school. High school's already built, in addition to the possible plans of a industrial site there. I mean, that's gonna be your new 54 at some point. It can't be 2 lanes. I mean, so decisions by the school board, decisions made by the county to add growth to that area, we need to move forward with widening that road now and finding funding mechanisms. And I wasn't a fan of piecemealing it, but if we have to start doing that, let's do it now. This is just a general comment, obviously, for this board and the team and staff. We can't wait. I mean, just think about Performing Arts Center, middle school, high school, all the new development that's going up and down that road now, the growth that's about to happen at the shopping center, and this industrial center that my fellow commissioners approved. You got to do something.
Can't be playing catch-up, right? All the time.
It's going to be a lot of catch-up there. And it's going to, in those shoulders, those are terrible roads. Buses can barely get around some of those corners. Can't imagine what tractor trailers are going to experience. Now, we know the one end, where Overpass Road interchange is going to be, that portion's going to be okay. The rest of it's not.
Right.
Any further discussion?
Just,
Mr. Starkey?
I agree with everything you're saying, that that's going to be a very important road, but I do.
And sidewalks and trails, too.
I do think we're going to have, we may have an opportunity for whoever buys that piece of industrial property or does development there to help pay for some of that road. Now, maybe we get paid back with transportation impact fees, or we can work that out, but I do think that road, part of that road cost is going to be borne by the private
Yeah.
sector.
I think we have someone interested in that property.
So we are working with
So, Mr.
engineering
Chair, I'm
service.
sorry, I apologize.
Commissioner Moore.
Let me just respond. So you're correct. Talking to staff, I think whoever moves in there is going to be responsible for widening and making improvements in the portion in front of the industrial center.
But not the whole road.
Exactly. It doesn't help the rest of the road. Now, Commissioner Oakley and I share that.
That's in both our districts,
overlap,
District 1 and District 2.
It's kind of like you and I across the street from each other on 54 and portions of it. So I know we both have concerns on that, but again, tomorrow is the day that, well, now is the day that the development's happening. Next school year is the day when the middle school and the high school will be separated, and obviously the middle school portion will be open. The Performing Arts Center is, when is that supposed to be completed? Do we remember when? Within a few months?
I hadn't heard.
Within a year? I don't know. Whatever it is, that'll be done. Can you imagine, I think back to people coming to our county to go to a big performance and being stuck in traffic on this little 2-lane road, trying to get to, some type of major performance or whatever they may be having there. Again, road can't handle it. It can't.
You know what's so strange about Old Pasco Road is the fact that when I was elected 3 years ago, it started evolving the things that are happening, and all of a sudden that comes to light, and it's not on anybody's target list that needs to be 4-lane, but all these new buildings, schools, all this is happening, and it came to light it should be on the top of the list.
So
It's an important road, and it's also a parallel road to I-75, which FDOT likes that kind of road, because it takes traffic off the interstate and puts it over on a private road.
So we know how much of a,
I know, please. We're going to keep having some conversation.
Commissioner Mariano wanted
Yeah.
to speak as well.
You know, years ago, when we had Opinicus coming in, we went to the state DO, I think we picked up
the money to build the road going into it. Maybe we can go to the state, put that on. I'm sure you made that one of your priorities as far as the legislative delegation coming up.
I think we only get one priority.
Yeah, so we're working on that to decide the best route to go on that.
Okay.
Having conversations, obviously, with the legislators that have that district, and working with staff, working with Ralph, to see the best way to proceed in that manner. I don't know, maybe to Secretary Gwynn want to take it over as a state road? I'm just kidding. We will give it to you. Just having fun. I'm having fun with you. But you guys have been great, actually. But, yeah, so we're having those discussions. And I'm glad it's in the back of everybody's mind. We can't stall. We need to move forward. We know the price is high. You know, a lot of right-of-way acquisition, if not eminent domain, would have to happen too.
So both Debbie and I have some information to share with you.
Please.
Oh, okay.
We know it's a priority for the MPO and also the Board of County Commissioners, but, you know, we've already applied for a DOT grant, and I think when Jensen presents the FDOT tentative work program, it'll highlight the old Pasco Road. They funded the design for that.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
let me
That's why we're
add,
meeting
everything
on
that,
there, or since they're bringing it up.
everything you're saying is absolutely true. We have funded an update of the route study in 2020. DOT is partnering with us in that project, so they're sharing half the cost of the update of the study. And then we're also funding design in 2022.
Yeah.
So we are getting out of the gate with it, and it is going to be a high cost. We'll know better once that route study is updated, what that right-of-way cost will be, and there are opportunities for us to partner with them, either through SIGP or TRIP, for the design and construction. So it is on the radar, it is funded, so you'll be seeing something in the next couple of months for the grant agreement, because we're working with that now, with them on that right now. And that, the update will be update will start early next year.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Moore.
Thank you. So, thank you for that, because we had those discussions, but, so it kind of answers Commissioner Mayow's question too. One of the reasons, again, we're still working through it, waiting a little bit with the legislators, because we need to have that study done first, because you can't get ahead of the study before you ask for any type of funding assistance. Yeah. But we're working on it.
Any further discussion? There's a motion on the floor with a second then. All those in favor?
Wait, so what are we voting on right now?
What Commissioner Mariano already made a motion on.
I know.
UPWP amendment,
Amendment.
PCPT, Section 5307 funds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent. Motion passes. 2045 LRTP cost feasible plan update. Mr. Wally Blaine is back again. Come on up, Mr. Blaine.
Hey, good morning, Wally Blaine with Tyndale Oliver for the record. This is the meeting before the meeting, right? So in December, we'll be asking you to approve the long-range transportation plan, the list of cost feasible projects. So today, what I'm asking for you to do is kind of the culmination of the review we've been going through. We've put together a draft cost feasible plan, a list of projects and the revenues to fund those. Accordingly, with the MPO's public participation plan, we need to go out for public review, make sure we've got that last round of public comment. So what I'm asking from you today is that you would approve or endorse the cost feasible plan to go out to public comment and review so it can come back to you in December. The bulk of what I want to talk about, this isn't working, Manny, it's just a review of the schedule, go over where we are with those revenues. Manny, this isn't working. But also then look at what those list of projects are, highlight for you the changes as we looked at that since September when I was here last month, what those changes are, and then really get into what those next steps are as we'll go out for that public reach. So just a review of the schedule. We are coming into the conclusion, so we're in October. You are that purple little circle on there as the MPO board making the approval to go out to the public comment in November and then come back to you in December for final approval after going through committees as well. I wanted to really quick just emphasize or highlight this. We used a similar chart to this with the 2040 plan update 5 years ago. It showed you the trend of revenues, what that's looked like, and now we've added in what we are for 2045. The big change here is in the amount of revenues that are allocated for transit. And the reason behind that, remember we had that discussion about revenue scenarios and what we do, In the 2040 plan, there was the assumption about new revenues could be generated from a penny. We've not made that assumption going forward for the 2045 plan. In the 2040 plan, it was assumed that that revenue source would be about 75% allocated to transit and 25% allocated to the roadways. So it is, because that new revenue is not there, a decrease in the amount of money going towards transit. But one of the things that we've done in our revenue forecasting of that is recognize that what the county has in their tax increment financing and the current practice of how that is allocated across modes, with an increasing revenue source as development occurs, there's a great amount of revenue out of that that's allocated for transit projects moving forward into the future. There is also an increase, I'll show you on this chart, just kind of the distribution across our existing projects, an increase for our sidewalk and bicycle projects, as well as the maintenance and operation projects, technology as well. We know technology will be a key factor, especially as connected cities develops more and more, as we increase our intelligent transportation system and coordination of traffic signals. We may not know today what that technology improvement will be, but we know we need to set money aside for those improvements moving forward. Roadway capacity, new roadway projects and widenings still are the overwhelming majority of the revenues, and partially due because of the high cost of that infrastructure need. So just looking graphically on this map, one of the key things that we take from this plan is each of you under the county commission or the city councils have an approved capital improvement program budget document, and we hold that as one of our base existing conditions. So things that are in the capital improvement program, like the construction of Ridge Road when the permit comes in, like the widening of Wesley Chapel Boulevard from 56 up to 54, the widening of Trinity from Little Road up to 54. Those things that are existing capital improvements projects are considered part of our existing conditions. So what you see highlighted there in the pink or the purple are the roads that we're adding, or the projects that we're adding on the roadway side from basically our year 2025, starting at the end of where you're at with your capital budgets through the year 2045. 54, 56 is a crucial a corridor for the county, for the region as well. It was discussed much in great detail during the 2040 update. Since that time, you had your Vision 54, 56 task force that met, made a series of recommendations that you endorsed and submitted on to DOT, specifically for the 54-41 intersection. DOT is going through the reevaluation of those now, but also then establishing that corridor vision. Again, just like technology, this is a corridor that as that division develops, there'll be projects that are needed. So there's money allocated and set aside specifically for improvements along the 54 corridor, 56 as well, east of the interstate. A couple of highlights just to throw out there, and I don't have Old Pasco Road on here, so let me just highlight it since that was part of the earlier discussion. Because we are starting with your capital improvement programs as approved, you'll find in the plan that the widening of Tower Road is in the first time period that we can put it in for the plan's perspective. So then it becomes, as the actual decisions are made for the expenditure of that money, how that project can be advanced. So it is included as part of this plan update, and I know that was a question and concern regarding the 2040 update as well. But some of those major highlights of existing projects, the State Road 52 widening from 41 to Old Pasco, continuing what is currently done and extending that widening east. The widening and the conversion of the 301 one-way pair in downtown Zephyr Hills, working with city staff there and coordinating with the city's vision, as well as the continued widening of 301 north to Cossack, which would be the connection of Overpass Road over to 75. So that Overpass Road corridor is part of the long-range plan as well. The continued work on Tower Road, creating that parallel corridor to State Road 54 through the central part of the county. And then you've got County Line Road on the north side with Hernando. The part from east to Shady Hills is included, as well as the part of County Line Road with Hillsborough from Dale Mabry over to 41. And one of the key things that as we look at satisfying the growth and recognizing the pressures and the demands that are on the land in Pasco County is that developers will have a significant contribution in the transportation arena. So we've incorporated to the best of our ability through coordination with staff what those developer contributions would be to the transportation system. So what are some significant changes that have happened since we met last time? We did have some additional review with county, so we made sure that we we're accounting for things like the Village of Pasadena Hills revenues, that those are allocated to the appropriate facilities and in the appropriate locations. Made sure that the mobility fee revenues that are expected to be generated, certain of those through the ordinance are to be allocated to the state's strategic intermodal system. So we want to make sure those revenues are in the right place. We make sure that coordination with the developer projects is included accordingly. We also confirmed as the county engineering was going through the updates for the capital improvement program that we had accurate information on those committed projects or what those cost estimates were moving forward. We did allocate additional funding for the State Road 54 corridor. We reallocated some of that money. So there's in total about $470 million in future revenues that are set aside specifically for the 54 corridor once improvements are determined and the vision is decided. The Morningside project, the award that the City of Dade City received for that, we have that in there. To date, we don't know how the construction gets done, but we do have that shown in there, so there'll be negotiation and coordination of where the revenues would specifically come for that, but it is a project that we've included in the plan. We also included some additional network connectivity projects on the northeast side of Zephyr Hills, so that's like 20th Street, 23rd Street, Daughtry Road, kind of on the east of 301, making those connections over to Old Lakeland Highway. And then I mentioned earlier the connections in the Village of Pasadena Hills area, making sure that we've accounted for those revenues and projects correctly. We also have on the transit side, the projects that are there as well. I mentioned earlier about the transit revenues, but there are still a lot of projects that are in place in the plan for moving forward on transit. A lot of that focuses specifically on the west side in beefing up the existing service, but also then providing regional connections north to south with Hernando and Hillsborough and Pinellas. But also, I'll just say it's regional connections within Pasco County east to west because you have such a large county. A lot of the revenue that's allocated there is not just for expansion of the service, but for increasing the existing service. So we're looking at extending the top priorities out of the transit development plan, which are later service during the weekdays, adding Sunday service, and then increasing our frequencies, making the buses run more frequently every 15 or 30 minutes, depending on the corridor where they are now, as well as adding new service. So we are looking at both an increase in amount of service that's already out on the road, but also expanding that to cover more areas. You also have capital projects in the transit development plan, which are the connections with transit, the stops, the park and ride, and improvements for technology and accessibility on the transit system. You see it here, the other key regional corridors for making those connections that we saw on the graphic. But important to note is also the regional work that's happening through T-BARTA. They're looking at their regional rapid express as well as the 275, I-75 corridor through the region. So as those improvements are identified, there are opportunities for that further coordination to increase our transit service. In terms of bicycle, pedestrian, and trails, we did work through the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, kind of coordinated with them a little bit last month at their meeting. Ultimately, for the long-range plan, we don't know where every sidewalk gap, every bike lane need is. We know there's a great need, and so it's a matter of establishing a priority for setting the revenues aside in a program for implementation. So these are kind of some of the criteria to make sure that we're putting the right facilities in the right place, on the right roadways, and then building on some of the existing studies that have recently been completed, like the Pedestrian Bicycle Safety Action Plan and the Hills Bike Master Plan that was done on the northeast side. Ultimately having a comprehensive and strategic approach for implementing with the LRTP. There is still some public outreach to go, and this is what we intend to do, are doing now, and intend to do over the next month. So I had an opportunity, along with Casey Kersey from AECom, who's your other general planning consultant, to speak with the Greater Pasco Chamber this week. Spoke at Commissioner Starkey's Town Hall last night, and also have then been invited back to speak with the Greater Pasco Chamber at their meeting in Seven Hills next Friday. Seven Springs, sorry. And then we have tentatively had some conversations with the Greater Zephyr Hills Chamber and an opportunity to come and speak to them as well. There is a requirement for at least a 30-day public comment period. We intend for that to be started on November the 1st and run up into your December 11th board meeting. But you see we have two workshops scheduled. The November 5th coincides with the City of Newport Richey's council meeting, and it'll be held at the library on November the 5th. And then November the 6th, the next day, we'll be here at the courthouse. We tried to coordinate that with the Dade City Council meeting, which is on November the 12th, the next week. But the room here was not available. But we will be speaking at the Dade City meeting just to make sure folks are aware of that. And then our goal is to have and coordinate printed copies of the report that are out as well, so people can grab those and review them at their leisure, as well as having information available on the MPO's, the long-range plan website, mobilitypasco.com. So you see here just a couple of what are the next steps, what this action that we're asking you to do. It allows us to start the public comment period on November 1st. We'll prepare an adoption summary report that outlines a lot of the steps and procedures that's gotten us to this place, with a public hearing and adoption at your December 11th MPO board meeting. So that, Mr. Chairman, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions? Commissioner Mariano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see on the map, it's got the Vision Road of Hicks Road going from New York Avenue up to Denton, but you have it all the way out to 2025 to 2045. And that's a parallel road to that part of the county. But so we're going to try to do a transit connection eventually to take people, let's say, from Hudson Avenue, where the Bandit Point Hospital is, take them from that hospital up to the medical center. On it, you'll actually pass over Veterans Parkway. Engle Park is up there. The road can swing down across Denton all the way out to Sunwest Park, make a connection going back down to Hudson and make a loop. We've heard the money that we spend in hospitals as far as emergency rooms, et cetera. If you get a connection with a bus where you can get people from there to there, it's a big thing. The good thing is with this piece of property that where this road is going to go, there's one person that owns all the property up there. It's an old hollowed out C&D fill, so not much can be done there anyway. But I think with right-of-way costs, we could probably get it for nothing, or at least trade off without any cash to make the project more feasible and make it go forward better. And we'd have to serve a lot of different benefits. So I don't know if there's a way to bring that study forward, at least take a look at it, start negotiations with the gentleman to see if we can do a trade-off for impact fees or just even building the road on his property, which is a benefit to him. How can we get that project moved up?
So you can, as part of this motion, we can look into that and see, we may have to move some things around. So it may, just moving it up to be in that earlier time period. One of the things that Federal Highway allows in the long-range plan is if our revenue is in 5-year and a 10-year block at the end of time. And so part of the consistency determination is if you've got something funded in your plan in this project specifically is in the 2031 to 2035 time band. You're allowed to move it forward 1 5-year time band without an amendment to the plan. We can certainly look forward for that opportunity and see if there's revenue available the way the plan shakes out to move those forward and would be able to bring that back to you at your December meeting if we're able to make that change. If we're not, there's still opportunities for implementation activities to happen even if the plan has it later.
All right. And if you look at all the projects to where they're going, there's only County Line Road, and I'll actually ask you about County Line Road too, what Hernando County is doing with it, because we need to partner with them to make that road happen. But there's really not too many projects going on in Northwest Pasco. A lot of the gas collection goes along US 19. This will relieve traffic from Little Road out to here to the intersection of 52. So it will be a good positive for us, but I'd like to get it moved up substantially if I could to at least get it looked at to have that conversation.
Yeah, and I would say if that's the board's pleasure, we take that direction, we'll coordinate with staff and identify those opportunities, absolutely.
Commissioner Moore? And then Commissioner Starkey.
Thank you. I guess this, the same with Old Pasco. Again, what we need to be looking at, let's just be honest with ourselves, this is common sense stuff, is that where the growth is and where the traffic is where we should be. Easy enough. Can't get simpler than that, right? So, where's
Old
road?
Pasco? Yeah, so the design phase, and you heard staff.
We just talked about, right.
Yeah, is adding that in. So the design phase is in the 2025 time year period. So it's our first time period for the plan. And then the right-of-way and construction is in that 26 to 30 time period. So it follows right on that. Yes.
Right. It was hard to read because the writing was smaller than an ant. Really, even these glasses weren't curing that. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Starkey.
A couple of questions. And so my first one, I guess, would be the State Road 5441 intersection. We talked about this last night. And I will say the improvements of lengthening the turn lanes made a nice difference. Really, really smart investment.
Yeah, sure.
But we know that the State Road 54 is one of the biggest issues in the county, and this intersection too, especially as more growth is occurring And I know that DOT is working on their plan, and we talked about that last night as well. And I do wonder, when is it appropriate that we start putting some money aside for whatever improvement that intersection's going to be?
So I believe you'll get some specific updates about the work program update coming later. So in the DOT's long range and their strategic intermodal systems plan, they still have money allocated for a project at 5441. We've done the same thing for the long range plan. So at every time period of the plan, all the way from 2025 through 2045, there's money allocated and set aside for improvements along 54, including the 5441 intersection.
Okay, you know what? I think my paper is cut off.
I
Because
apologize
what
for
I
that.
have on State Road 54, 56 corridor improvements, it says project development environmental design, that green bar. Underneath it says SIS, and it says 2019, 2024 is $0. Cost, the timing, and then cost $0. And then there's another column that starts in orange, and I can't read that. Is there something there?
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so we have some money there?
Yes, so the $0 are kind of represent that funding has already taken place and the work is ongoing.
Okay.
But there's not new money programmed to finish that. That's kind of already under contract money that's there.
Okay.
So there is revenue out there for a right-of-way phase as well as a construction phase as placeholders for what those revenues are, specifically for 5441.
Great, that's very reassuring. Okay. The next question I have is, we had talked about a transit center. Would that be something that would be included in this, or is that something that's funded in a different way and not talked about here? And I'm talking about on the 19 corridor.
There's also a specific list of transit improvements, and so there is money set aside for improved or enhanced premium transit service on the US 19 corridor.
Now, I'm not talking about service, I'm talking about a physical place where, at one time, they talked about doing it in downtown Newport Richey, and they didn't want it.
Right.
But I would very much like it in my district on 19 corridor. And so, and I've seen where other counties have gone to Washington and have get some money to build a transit center that actually really aided in some economic redevelopment, and that's what I'm after.
So the response to that is that through the TMA, it's one of our regional requests. It's still on that list.
Okay.
And we're also aware that Peace PT was given money several years ago. I don't know if it's still available. They're planning for Pasco to look at an intermodal corridor. So that would be something that is part of their long-range plan.
So that doesn't show up on
It has
this?
not been lost.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, throwing it out there, I'm very interested to talk about that and work on that in the 19 corridor in the holiday area. Going down to Osteen Road, project number 3039. It says Osteen to Plath. It says Osteen Road, Plath to Decubulus. I recall back in the day when Mr. Nurembrock was here, there was a school that they opened up on the northern Osteen Road. We have Genesis, which is now going to be Pepin Academies. We have Ridgewood High School, north of there. We have an elementary school, and we have Marchman. We have 4 schools, and all that traffic has to go all the way around up Little Road, down Ridge, and come back down because of a couple hundred yards of road that's blocked on Osteen. I believe I would like to make an amendment to lengthen this from Decubulus to Osteen and make that connector. And it was politically a difficult thing for Mr. Nurembrock to help push because he was the owner of Genesis High School and the CFO of Pasco County. But this is one of those connections that makes great sense, and it's not fair to the citizens who lived on Orchid Lake that all that traffic has to come in front of them. It should be dispersed throughout that whole community. So I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
Yeah, so to confirm, what we have in the plan is on Osteen, from Plath up to Decubilis.
Wow, yeah, and it's just a
Flat.
tiny little bit that's not connected.
Yeah.
And I'm looking here, and when I look on Google Earth, and I look at, I think there's 2 parcels, and when I look at it, one of them is full of junk. It's full of old boats and cars. I don't know whose property that is, but frankly, we need code to get out there. But that is just one of those connections that needs to be done. And
Commissioner
so we have a
Oakley.
second, yeah.
Commissioner Oakley had some
Yes.
comments.
I was at the Zephyr Hills Economic Summit yesterday, and we were talking about different roads, and because of 56 being opened up to a 2-lane road at 301, it's created not a problem with itself, but the fact that 301 is not on the radar for improvement to a 4-lane right this minute, no funding, and it needs to be, but it goes so far just to a county line of Hillsborough County. Marsh Bridge has been packed. It's like, you know, bumper to bumper all the way down every morning and every afternoon. It has some of the same issues. But should this group, this MPO, reach out to Hillsboro's MPO and get them on the same page of wanting to 4-lane that from Pasco County down into Hillsborough County?
Yeah, and so, again, we did show the widening from 56 north.
Right.
And use State Road 56 kind of as that logical point to stop, because there has not been a decision with the Hillsborough MPO or Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners even.
Right.
There is in the needs the identification of widening US 301 to 4 lanes. And I believe there's some preliminary study that is looking at that today. I may be misspoken on that. Somebody
Well, and I think because of 56 being 4 lanes instead of 2, it just brought it out quicker than it would normally come if it had just been a 2-lane road, so.
Yes.
It's pretty important. I mean, it's one of those things that just happens because you're growing and you built this 4-lane road and you hit a 2-lane, which 301 is a major, you know, road from here to Hillsborough County. A lot of people were using it. Well, they got so full over on Marsh Bridge, they couldn't use it anymore. The interstate's so packed up going to Tampa. And then 301's come to light that people started using it because it was better. Now it's getting worse because we just got more traffic. And it's all dumping out right there, so.
Mr. Chairman, just in response, do
Yeah.
we know if that's a county or city maintained Morris Bridge on the Hillsborough side? Do you know if it's county or city?
I don't know. I know City of Tampa kind of comes up on the west side.
It does, well, City of Tampa does come up there.
I've assumed that it was a county road.
Yeah.
It carries a county road designation in some places. I can confirm that or kind of bring that back to you. I don't know today.
Yeah.
I can, the reason I asked, I can reach out to Councilman Vera on the Tampa side. We have a good relationship. I don't
Yeah.
mind doing that.
Okay,
And,
that'd be good, so.
So, Andy?
I thought you said you were gonna reach out.
Well, he's gonna set it up.
Danny, are you listening?
He'll set up, yeah, he'll set up the meeting. Mr. Starkey?
I was confused, sir.
Two more things. On here, project 3034A and 3034B, if we're gonna do Starkey Road, that's in Pinellas County. Starkey Boulevard. Is this Starkey Boulevard?
Yeah, it is Boulevard.
Okay, so I think you need to fix that. Lastly, my one legislative ask, just for your edification, this year we're doing a little differently, and each one of us gets one ask on our program as we go to Tallahassee.
What is yours?
And mine is also transportation related, and it is, once again, the overpass for the coast-to-coast trail over 54. DOT has just finished doing some of their preliminary design.
Over 54 where?
The coast-to-coast trail.
Okay.
And,
At the expressway then?
no,
Expressway or
at
Longleaf?
Starkey Boulevard.
Starkey Boulevard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, my understanding is DOT has kind of narrowed it down to a couple designs. I don't know if Ralph is here. And we're gonna be asking for, the P&E money. Is that right? So, do any of you guys know, are you aware of that, from DOT? So we're gonna ask for it in 2 stages. The first, is the design, and then we'll ask for construction under my legislative priorities, so I don't know if that needs to be on here, or.
Yeah, I think one of the, it's great to hear that and know that that's happening. One of the things that we're kind of limited to is what are the dedicated revenues that we know and assume will be here, reasonably available. What we can do for the plan is say, if additional revenues are determined, these are the top priorities, the candidates for moving either projects forward or adding projects to.
Okay, and just so everyone understands, this is the Coast to Coast Trail, is the trail that is the Pinellas Trail, starts at St. Pete, it's going to Titusville. The legislature's given so much money to that program every year. The Starkey Gap will be done in another month. That's a DOT project, and but we're all very concerned about pedestrian traffic crossing 54 there. So this is an overpass over the highway.
Okay.
Okay, that's it
For
from me.
this- Anyone else? For the sake of time, we have a motion with an amendment and a second on the floor.
I'd like to bring up my Hicks Road extension again, just to let everyone know, as far as, even if I just get it designed, it's a brownfield. I could get funding from that. I can work with the developer or the owner of the property to make it work. There's 3 schools that are along the road. Veterans Park is there. Hicks Road, remember this, I don't know if you remember years ago when we had the accident out there. That sidewalk is now is being constructed all the way from 52 all the way up. So it's safer now to put more trips going up there, I feel. We've done the intersection improvement at Hudson and Hicks. This connection here does have a lot of benefits to it and a lot of funding possibilities for it. So if I could get it added, I'm not asking to get the construction dollars, just let me get it designed so I can do something with it.
Are you asking the maker of the motion to amend her motion?
Well,
Can I make a
add it.
suggestion, Jack?
Sure.
Because this is a draft, right? I mean, we're not voting on the final yet.
Well,
Can we have staff bring us a scope of what that is and what it looks like in the map? Because I really don't really know what you're talking about.
Well,
and then-
it's kind of like the Osteen Road where you've got a connection with a road. I mean, New York Avenue, Denton Avenue, and all the roads between, it all goes up there. And then Hicks Road, if you're going up that way where all the schools are and everything else, you got to swing all the way over down New York Avenue to go hit Little Road, swing back up and over,
Well,
and then
it
back
makes
over to
sense, but
Denton.
I'd like to.
Commissioner
fine.
Mariano,
All right.
so the staff will get together with Debbie to see if she can
Okay.
put it in the CIP near term, and
Okay.
then we'll adjust the plan.
That'll be fine, thank you.
And Mr. Blaine, just, if you could once again just declare and define what we're voting on with the amendment.
Yeah, absolutely. So your feedback is vitally important, making sure that we've got an accurate portrayal of the projects going out to public comment. What I need from you today is an endorsement of a draft to take out to the public. I don't think either discussion on Osteen or Hicks Road is a major change to the plan. What we need to avoid is coming to you in December after the public comment and the public have been heard and making major changes to the plan. There's always opportunities after the plan's adopted for amendment, which has additional public involvement. But we want to make sure I've got clear direction on what you want to see as the final plan that comes back as a result of public comment. So, yes.
Is everyone clear? Uh-huh. Yes? Okay, all those in
Yeah.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Blaine. Move on to Pasco County Public Transportation reports and updates. Yeah.
Good morning, all. Kurt Scheibel, Pasco County Public Transportation Director. Good news is the board approved a spending authority so we can go out and purchase some new buses. Some of them are replacement, but 2 of them are for the Shady Hills route. So we're finally on the path. There's a light at the end of the tunnel for Shady Hills, so it should be coming. I'm hoping that Gilly can get them out within 9 months. I am going to go out to do the pre-production meeting in a couple of weeks, and we're hopefully going to be able to work out when they're actually going to get here. And I'll be able to give you some information on when that route's going. You also may or may not know from our last meeting, it was kind of rushed, but we are going out for bid for a new paratransit scheduling software and system. The whole idea is there's been a lot of changes since the last time we purchased one, and there's been a lot of, 5 years, there's been a lot of computer type of advances. So the whole goal is to be something that's more efficient, so we can provide more trips, but also more customer service efficient, so customers can be able to use different modes to phones, computers, so forth, to be able to look at what trips are available and possibly able to schedule the trips. That's about the gist of, that's taken up a lot of the time, so that's about where we're at right now. Is there any questions for me? Good. Okay.
But I do on something else.
Ms. Sharkey.
So I'm a frequent visitor to the bus stop at the Wawa on Holiday.
Yes.
I frequently chase out those guys that are sitting there. And I did see your new decal for no soliciting, and the other one that they've already tried to peel off. It's my suggestion that you put it on the roof, looking down.
I talk about the metal sign, man, that's bolted
Yeah,
to the,
I think that's gonna come off. I'll go see if it's still there.
well, my guy checks it literally twice a week.
Yeah, and it's
That's
still
one
there?
we go to every day.
Okay.
My maintenance tech goes out there twice a week to check on it.
If that one comes off, I suggest you put a sticker on the roof, on the outside, looking down. That they can't get on.
What does the sign say?
No
It-
loitering.
no loitering and a bunch of-
Because they
No, you
can't trespass
said
them from the bus
soliciting, and I
stop. Oh, yeah, I didn't mean soliciting.
Well, I believe
I
it
meant
says
no
that also.
loitering.
It says a lot of, it
There
says
is
a lot of
soliciting
different
going
things
on
on there.
But I mean no loitering.
Yeah, and the bus drivers are also keeping an eye on that. We've talked to, as you all know, the 19, we have a lot of bus drivers go on there, almost 8 a day, and they do check that one specifically. If it has a problem, they know to call in and get the team out there so they can fix whatever's the trash and various other things that are out there.
Needles. Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of stuff, and they've got a little grabber that they use. They have a sharps container and some other stuff, so they're working hard to keep that clean and check it on a regular basis. And if the driver sees the same folks out there, they're calling in, and we're making phone calls to the sheriff's department to get people out there.
Yeah, I call too, but they
Perfect.
just get up and walk across the street or to the gas station next door. So
Yes.
it's a problem. It's pretty much, it's interesting, same 4 guys that are always there. So, they like hanging out there. All right, that's it for me.
We're really.
It's a tough
It's
problem.
on our radar, and we keep a pretty good on it, because they,
And one lady. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to status reports. 2 of the 5 have been canceled for today. I will point out it's 11 o'clock, and that both Commissioner Moore and myself have a meeting directly after this meeting at 12. But we should be able to get through all these within an hour. So we're going to move on to FDOT work program update with Jensen Hackett.
Good morning, Board. Jensen Hackett, FDOT MPO Liaison. All right, so I am going to go over the 5-year work program, the tentative work program for fiscal 21 through fiscal 25. The tentative work program for fiscal 21 through fiscal 25 covers project phases and activities that are scheduled from July 1st of 2020 through June 30th of 2025. Year 1 is actually included within the state budget. This is obviously pending legislative approval and governor's approval as well. Years 2 through 5 of the program are commitments for production and financial planning purposes. And FDOT managed projects are included, as well as local projects that have FDOT involvement within them. So the current adopted 5-year program, as you see on the screen, runs from fiscal 20 through fiscal 24, years 1 to 5. This plan includes all public transit, seaport, airport, and rail projects, and it also includes transportation planning, intelligent transportation and intelligent transportation systems planning projects, highway design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction activities. So every year on June 30th, the current year of the work program does end, and on July 1st, year 2 moves up to become the new current year. And at this time, that new 5th year is added into the program, and funding is allocated to the next phase of projects that are programmed in the prior 4 years. So fiscal 2021 will become year 1, fiscal 22 will become year 2, et cetera, all the way to year 5 at fiscal 25. So this is where we currently are in the process with the tentative work program. And this presentation is going to outline the changes to the first 5 years of the program, as well as new projects that are added inside that 5th year. The proposed work program will be submitted to the Florida Legislature later this year for review, as well as signature by the governor come July 1st of next year. This is an accelerated cycle, so we have been really getting together with this and really pushing this through, just because it has to go to the legislature in January this year instead of in March. So after the governor does sign the work program July 1st, the first year is included in the state budget, and the work program is then considered adopted. So with the program development process of the work program, key is to preserve the existing system and to deliver the unfunded phases of projects that are currently in the work program, to provide cost estimate updates to projects, and to add new projects into the work program. These projects will include safety and security projects, system preservation projects, multimodal enhancements, operational improvements, and capacity improvements. And these are all based upon MPO priorities, as the Pasco MPO priority list, regional priorities such as the TMA, as well as SIS and FDOT, the strategic intermodal system priorities. So in that development process, new projects that are not previously included in the work program are included, as well as new phases of existing projects. And these could be PD&E, project development and environment, preliminary engineering and design as PE, right-of-way as ROW, construction as CST, design build as DSB, and grants as well. Also, select projects of interest will be included in the list. So before I move on to the list of projects, if there's a project that you are thinking of that has been inside the work program in the last 5 years and it is not listed, this list is only showing the highlights. So anything that has changed or been added into the tentative work program for fiscal 21 through fiscal 25. So our first project is number 1 on the MPO priority list. This is State Road 52, Schrader Highway, from US 41 and State Road 45, and this is to Aaron Cutoff. This is add 2 lanes and reconstruction. This also includes the trail on the southern side, the 10-foot shared use path. For this, we have added construction in fiscal year 2025. This project is going to be considered a goes-with project with the project that will be from Aaron Cutoff to Bellamy Brothers. The entire project is included in number 1 on the MPO priority. However, this will be a June-July letting, June letting in 2025 and July letting in 2026 in that fiscal year. So these will be goes with project. They will go together, but in terms of funding, we had to cut those into 2 pieces. Overpass Road from east of Boyette Road to US 301. This is widening the roadway and incorporating the new roadway as part of that. Right now it's in pieces as you go east of I-75. This was PE added to fiscal year 2021. The next we talked about a little bit earlier, US 41 and the State Road 54 interchange. These are the limits along State Road 54 from Wilson Road to Osprey Lane. This is the new interchange. Right-of-way was deferred from fiscal 24-25 to fiscal year 26. This was due to the PD&E process that is currently ongoing with that. This project, however, is in the SIS 10-year plan. So those revenue forecasts are out 10 years with the strategic intermodal system. So this is still inside that SIS plan, just not inside the work program.
Yeah, we have no idea where that is, so sometimes it's good to have a map. I'm going to pull it up on my map, but where is that?
That one, that's the intersection of State Road 54 and US 41.
Wait, Wilson to Osprey?
Yeah, those are the limits along State Road 54
Wilson
of
is
that.
on the west side of 41,
Osprey is on the east. So that's physically for the intersection.
Okay, I don't pull it up. All right, thanks.
So then US 301 and Gall Boulevard from State Road 56 to State Road 39, Paul Buckman Highway. This was adding 2 lanes to the roadway there, 1 in either direction. Right-of-way was removed in fiscal 23 and fiscal 24. US 301-39, north of that, just north of the city of Zephyr Hills, from Island Boulevard to Cossack Road, adding 2 lanes. Right-of-way was removed in fiscal 23 and fiscal 24. This was an MPO priority project. I-75 and I-275, this is from County Line Road to the State Road 56 interchange. This is not the DDI that is currently under construction. This is for the southbound collector distributor ramps, very similar to what currently exists coming northbound to exit off at the 56 exit. This was PE deferring from fiscal 21 to fiscal 23, with the right-of-way deferring from fiscal 23 to fiscal 25. This is a goes-with project, again, with the portion on the Hillsborough side, because this project will extend into Hillsborough County. So we are just aligning the PE and the right-of-way with the ongoing PE and right-of-way and the Hillsborough section of that. Old Pasco Road from County 54 and Wesley Chapel Boulevard to State Road 52. This was adding the 2 lanes, and we had talked about this a little bit earlier as well in the meeting. This was PE that was added to fiscal 23, and this is a SIGP project, the County Incentive Grant Program application that the county applied for. So next we're going to move into our bicycle and pedestrian projects. Mitchell Boulevard from Churchill Parkway to Trinity Oaks Boulevard. This is right along just to the south of Mitchell High School. This was construction added in fiscal 25 for that sidewalk and trail facility. This was on the MPO priority list. We also have the Orange Belt Trail from east of Little Road to State Road 54. This was also funded with the Sun Trail money. This is construction added in fiscal 25 for that trail facility that is going to go along there. These are two Safe Routes to Schools projects. This is Pasco Elementary from Fort King, or along Fort King Road from Hester to Coleman. This is a sidewalk with PE added in 2024. And then Bexley Elementary and Ballantrae Boulevard, right near Bexley Elementary and the Sun Lake High School. From Stratton Place to Tower Road, this was another sidewalk with PE added in fiscal 24. For resurfacing projects, this is US 301 and Gall Boulevard from the Hillsborough County line to just south of State Road 39, right where the intersection with 56 comes online. This is PE added to fiscal 21 with construction added to fiscal 23. This is maintaining our 80 to 85% targets that we hit for resurfacing projects across the district. State Road 52 and Meridian Avenue from west of Storch Lane to US 98 and US 301. This was PE added in fiscal 21 with construction in fiscal 23. US 41 and State Road 45 from just north of County Line Road and Willow Bend Parkway to Bell Lake Road. This is south of the State Road 41 and 54 intersections where this project begins. PE was added in fiscal 21 with construction in fiscal 23. And the following are resurfacing projects that are also complete streets candidates, so these will be considered for complete streets implementation as part of the resurfacing construction on these roadways. State Road 54 from US 41 and Land O'Lakes Boulevard to Knights Road. PE was added in fiscal 21 with construction added in fiscal 23. State Road 54 from US 19 and State Road 55 to west of Virginia City Drive. This is another one with PE added in 21 with construction in 23. And State Road 54 from just west of Mitchell Ranch Plaza entrance to Marathon Drive, just at the intersection of Little Road. PE was added in fiscal 21 with construction added again in fiscal 23. And the rest of the projects are going to be lighting projects. The first one is US 19 from the Pinellas County line up to New York Avenue. PE was added in fiscal 23 with construction added in fiscal 25. This is an LED lighting retrofit, so there are existing lighting on that corridor, and these will all be implemented with LEDs. State Road 52 from US 19 to Hicks Road with PE in 23 and construction added in 25. This one, there is a little bit of lighting on that corridor, so this will be retrofitting what is existing there, but also adding lighting to the gaps that exist on that roadway. State Road 54 from US 19 to Little Road, again, PE added in 23 and construction added in 25. This one, again, is just like the prior one where there's a little bit of lighting on that corridor that will be upgraded to LED, but it's mostly putting in new lighting along that corridor. US 301 from Tucker Road to Pretty Pond Road. This is right through the city of Zephyr Hills. PE was added in fiscal 24. This, again, a few lights that do exist there, and those will be retrofitted, but it's mainly a new lighting construction project. And then State Road 52 from Willow Oak Drive to Wiregrass Mall entrance, as well as State Road 56 from the Wiregrass Mall entrance to Meadow Point. So this will be continuous from I-75 all the way over to Meadow Point Boulevard. This was design build that was added in fiscal 23. We just had those intersections redone with the LED lighting at all those intersections from I-75 to Meadow Point. However, this will fill in the gaps in between with lighting that goes along the entire corridor, new LED lighting. So the 5-year total in millions of funding for Pasco County will be just under $300 million at $278.99 million. For MPO planning, it is $3.32 million, so that is for the MPO to do planning studies and those type of things. For transit, we're looking at about just under $30 million, 28.67, and that is split up 13.24 for operations as well as 15.42 million for capital. Aviation, just over $12 million. Capacity is about $158 million. Resurfacing projects total about $25 million. Traffic operations, just about $10 million there. Bike and pedestrian projects are just over $11 million, 11.48, and this does also include the Sun Trail at $3.87 million that has been allocated. One thing to note about the bike and pedestrian projects is in capacity projects, we don't have a good way of pulling out the bicycle and pedestrian amount from the capacity improvement. So that may look a little low, but that's because some of the bike and pedestrian infrastructure improvements are actually lumped under the capacity improvements when those go alongside of a capacity project, such as State Road 52. For our ITS, we're looking at just over $8 million, and then for complete streets, just a little bit over $3 million in projects there. And so with this schedule, I was actually able to give all of you one of the tentative work program cards that is sitting in front of you. October 21st to November 1st is the online public hearing, and the website is on the back of that card. October 30th is the District 7's work program open house from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Come see me. I am staffing that. So I will be over there, looking forward to anybody that does show up to that. November 11th is when public comments are due on the tentative work program. November 18th is when MPO objections are due to the tentative work program. January 2020, this is when this goes up to the legislature for review. And July 1st of 2020 is when the governor will sign, and the tentative work program for 21 through 25 will become adopted. And with that, I have the whole gamut of us here to answer any questions that you may have on the tentative work program.
Mr. Hackett, thank you very much for your presentation. Before you leave, may I have one of your business cards?
Yeah, sure.
And any questions or comments from Mr. Hackett? Well, Commissioner Moore.
I just want to thank, DOT for Secretary Wynn's here today. Just,
Can't see him.
yeah, he's right there. Yeah. But I've said it before, but you guys have been amazing to work with over the last couple of years. Your team's extraordinary, and we really, really do appreciate everything you're doing here in Pasco County. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to the citizens. So thank you.
I was hoping to have gotten my act together and put the committee back together to talk about landscaping on 54, but we didn't get it done, so we'll try and reconvene for next year. But I know that we have an interest in having landscaping increased on our intersections as the work, my understanding is they didn't want to put any more until the work was completed. So want to make sure we do remember to have that discussion with DOT. And I know we have some may be turnpike property, but we'd love to maybe beef up some of our landscaping where appropriate.
Perfect. And we do have Turnpike here that will be giving you their work program update as well in just a moment.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Suncoast Parkway Interchange Planning Study. Carol Scott.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and board members.
Good morning.
First, before we jump into the interchange study, I am going to highlight our work program. So similar to District 7, the Turnpike is part of the Florida Department of Transportation, so we appear before you every year to also present our tentative work program. So this is also for fiscal year 2021 to 2025. And before you have a hard copy. It's this green sheet right here. We have two projects along the Suncoast Parkway in our tentative work program. The Pasco County projects are listed on page 2, and there's also a map on the last page of your handout. So the first project that I'm going to highlight, we're going to make interchange improvements to the Suncoast Parkway and the 54 interchange. So design is funded in 2021, construction is funded in 2022, and these improvements will so for the travelers traveling northbound from the Tampa area and exiting on State Road 54, there'll be an extra deceleration lane, and then we're also adding a left turn lane and a right turn lane.
Off the exit or on?
When you exit off to the Suncoast Parkway onto 54.
Are they going to pull that up there?
That's actually, it's this handout right here, ma'am.
Well, where's the diagram of what that's going to look like?
Oh, I can provide
that.
that.
Is that not this?
No, that actually, Justin Hanna will go into detail on those improvements in the next presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, and there is a slide that talks about that diagram. We're kind of doing a combo today. So an additional improvement to that interchange for the travelers going southbound, so towards Tampa from 54, we're lengthening the acceleration lane to ease the merge.
That'll help. Yeah.
And I hate to do this.
Pardon me?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Moore.
Because this was a question I was going to ask. I don't know if this is the right time, but since you're there and we have DOT here and our team, I know it's not my district because you may already be working on this, but it was brought up to me this morning. So coincidentally, I have an MPO meeting. Getting some concerns, and I hate to call them complaints, but they're complaints, about going eastbound on 54 towards the Suncoast.
Oh, absolutely.
How it's stacking up.
I think that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, it's just
crazy.
the traffic is stacking up. So But it's probably, I would assume it's twofold. It's the traffic stacking up. So I don't know if it's the synchronization of the signals in addition to the
It's the
off-ramp.
lane, I think the lanes, that we need longer turn lanes as well.
From State Road 54.
Going on 54, heading east in the morning
Yeah.
is a 3 or 4 light cycle wait.
So what do we think's causing that?
I think when Ridge
So I can
Road
answer the
opens,
constituent.
that will help. I think when Ridge and Suncoast opens, that
We
will
know
alleviate
that, but
some of that.
I agree with
But
that
I think that we might look at the same, if there's room, the same solution that we had at 54 and 41, which I think you maybe just touched on that a little bit. And I think they've already done the light. Haven't you already synchronized the
There
lights?
has been some coordination on the signal timing at that interchange.
Okay.
I do
Yeah.
understand there's a lot of growth there, there's a lot of traffic
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's really stacking up there, but it
very-
stacks up worse there than anywhere else on
Yeah,
54.
it's worse
Until-
than 54
until
and
you-
41
It
now.
is. It is worse than 54 and 41 now, which is, that's saying a lot. It really
Yes,
is.
it is. It's a big mess.
And Justin will go into this, I don't want to steal his thunder, but I believe there are also some there's a developer-funded project in that area on 54 to add some turn lanes in the future, so that's something that yeah. Well, if you want me to pull it up now, or,
We also.
Yeah.
We can wait.
Yeah.
I thought this was the appropriate time to
Well,
discuss
And
this.
Tower Road, the Tower Road flyover will be a reliever also for that interchange. But the first one that's coming is the Ridge and Suncoast.
But just, yeah, I didn't know if there was anything immediately that could be done, if there was synchronization of the signals or anything that
They
could
did
be done. I guess right up, yeah.
Maybe when you take out that gate, the toll booth, maybe traffic could flow there faster as well.
yes, and that's a project that's ongoing, that's under construction right now.
The toll booth is still there even though they're not using it.
Yeah, it's a two-phase process, so they implement the all electronic
Well,
tolling
when
and
that-
then they'll remove it.
Yeah, so that is the question, when are you gonna turn on that other thing? But we'll
Yeah.
get there.
There's a lot of testing that needs to be done before that can happen.
Okay.
So the second project that I just want to highlight is, as you mentioned, the Ridge Road interchange. That's a partnership project between the Turnpike and Pasco County. So we are funding the interchange and we're providing some technical assistance to the county. It's currently in design, and I believe construction will be let in 2020, early 2020, so they're gearing up for the construction.
We are too.
Yeah. So that actually concludes my very short work program presentation. We were asked to study a few interchanges along the Suncoast Parkway in Pasco County. And so we, Justin Hanna with AECom led a group to perform a study, and he's here to present the findings, if you're ready for that.
I am
We are
waiting
ready.
with bated
Okay.
breath because I want to know how my cyclists are going to safely get from one side to another.
Thank you.
Come on up, Justin.
Good morning to the board. Hopefully I can answer some of the questions that we have coming up here. And I'm Justin Hanna. I'm a consultant with AECom, and we're consultant to Porter Sternberg Enterprise. And I'm the project manager for this study. So, and we'll kind of go over kind of the background and the kind of the origins of this and kind of our analysis results of this. But this was originally kind of, so before we go into this, okay. All right, so just kind of going over the agenda and kind of how the presentation is put together. We'll go in a little bit of the project background and overview. We'll review some of the existing conditions as Commissioner all well knows that are what's kind of happening out there. We'll just kind of touch on some of the program improvements that Carol kind of introduced earlier. Go into a bit of our study approach with this particular study. Go into some of the proposed interchange concepts, and then actually review the study results at each of those locations, and then some time for questions at the end. But please, if while I'm going into this presentation you have questions, please just let me know and I'll just stop and answer them. So just to go into a little bit of the background and overview on this, the MPO board formally requested that the enterprise study potential interchanges along the Suncoast Parkway. And so as a part of this study, we ended up analyzing potential interchanges at Tower Road, at Shady Hills Road, and also at Caldwell Lane. And so just kind of starting in the 54 area, what you're looking at here is you're looking at the State Road 54 interchange area along with the Suncoast Parkway. And each of the colors that you see there on the map represents a different development. And again, this is probably not news to anybody here, but there's a lot of development that's happening. And then as Commissioner Moore, as you kind of said earlier, where the development is, that's where the traffic is. And so a lot of these developments have a lot of frontage toward 54, and so this produces a lot of traffic. So again, subsequently, as these developments continue to build out, the traffic will increase accordingly. So it's not news to anybody here. There's a lot of development and a lot of things going on at 54. And so just to show kind of where the locations of both of these, what we're looking at here, the circle obviously to the south is the 54 interchange, and just north of that is the Tower Road interchange where we're kind of looking at the study. If you look at, just for information purposes, the actual, the interchange, if you look at that going basically the northbound interchange, the Gore location of that to where we're looking at the Tower Road interchange is actually less than a mile. So we'll kind of go over kind of the implications of that as we talk about some of the concepts. But that's just something important to keep in mind, that this distance between those two is very short. So when we review some of the existing conditions for this interchange, what you can see here on the screen is just some screenshots from the cameras. And this screenshot was actually taken in May of 2019. And this is actually looking at northbound congestion approaching State Road 54. You can see there, this is this I believe is PM evening congestion here. So you can actually see that backup that's occurring there. And again, some of the program improvements that we know are coming there, such as the Ridge Road interchange, which will kind of allow some of these vehicles that would actually have to get off there, they can use that Ridge Road interchange to get off there. In addition to the turn lane improvements that are coming in 2021, we'll kind of go over those in a little bit more in depth. But again, you can see here there is congestion that's coming that occurs here in the PM peak, and also some in the AM as well. So looking at the programmed improvements, and this is going into some of the things that Carol covered earlier. The first of these is the programmed improvement that she covered before, and the FP on that, in case anybody's interested in it, is 444-486-1. And this is the addition of that left turn lane and that one right turn lane. So right now what you're introducing here is a triple left and a dual right. And so what this will do is, in addition to this interchange going to AET, this does basically allow for more turn lanes for that heavy movement going left, and then introduces another turn lane for the movements going right there. So this will help to kind of keep traffic moving on this location. And then something that we were also discussing earlier, as a part of two improvements that are coming from the developer, one of the issues here that we were talking about earlier is the lack of storage. And so what you see here with these two, and they're kind of in yellow, so it's a little bit hard to see, but these two dual left turn lanes, the introduction of these two left turn lanes here will address that storage issue here. So so when you're looking at some of the issues that are happening here, that lack of storage is what this will address there. So this will extend and add two left turn lanes in each direction there to address that. So the combination of these two programmed improvements, and looking at the interchange analysis, these will address most of those to help this interchange operate acceptably to about 2030, 2035. But looking out to that 2045 horizon past that, there are some other options that we'll need to look at in order to address the future congestion needs coming at this interchange.
Is there anything else on that interchange?
Right now, these are the two programmed improvements that we know of.
Okay, so tell me about cyclists.
The left turn lane and the right turn lane, this one doesn't really address anything with the cyclists. And again, the storage lanes that are being proposed with the developer, again, those are still, right now there's an existing agreement with D7 in regards to actually constructing those. The time frame for those, we're still kind of working that out. My guess there is that they might be addressing some things that are having to do with cyclists and pedestrians crossing at those two sections. But the left turn lane, the right turn lane that the turnpike is responsible for, that one's not a direct, bicycle or pedestrian kind of directly improving that.
So, the pedestrian flyover that we're supposed to have at this intersection, how does that fit in all this?
I'm not sure if is that a district?
Maybe
I know that DOT is doing the feasibility on that overpass for the pedestrian and bicyclist overpass, and that's where we are, and that's as much as I know about that. So I don't know if you know.
Was that in our?
We do have Penny for Pasco funding to do an overpass at 54 on the Suncoast Parkway. And there have been some discussions with the Parks Department because it's going to impact the trailhead there. And they had gotten a grant for some bicycle facilities. So there's coordination that's continuing. And we have had some conversations with DOT. So staff is working on the RFP so that we can study this. But we haven't, it's still in the discussion phase and in the development of the RFP. So we would be working with DOT as we proceed on this.
So what was our original timeline for that construction of that flyover? Pedestrian flyover at 54?
It was for, well...
the original one?
It was before, well, it was by 2024.
2024? And when did we talk about doing it at 52?
That one we pushed out. I think we had this conversation. We moved, the priority was to look at this one first, and then we were going to do the 52 and overpass. So that
well,
is
some of
gonna
us said that we wanted to do 54, and then we wanted to do Starkey and put off the 52.
Right, and we've had, so there have been some discussions. I don't see Ross here today, but we had some recent discussions about looking for, talking to DOT and looking at for SunTrail money to look at an overpass at that location, because I think they just finished a feasibility study. Did you? There was a feasibility study that they did. I haven't seen the results of that yet, so they were looking to see if it could be done at that location at Starkey Boulevard at 54.
Yeah, I think they've narrowed it down to 2 different designs.
So we just met with, so staff just met within the past couple weeks to talk about, seeing if we could partner with DOT on a SunTrail application at that location. So that is taking a different track.
Okay,
and it's very important, and we recognize that. So that's on a different track, and we're looking at SunTrail for that.
So when we're talking about the pedestrian flyover that is funded with the Penny for Pasco money at this interchange, doesn't that involve the turnpike? Because wouldn't we be on turnpike?
It will involve the turnpike. Yeah, we'll be working with them.
They're not aware of it,
they
or
are.
It's not.
Well, I don't know the staff person. There've been. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong.
I just want to make sure
There've been a couple different staff people since we've had these initial conversations, so they will most definitely be at the table as we move forward. There was someone else preceded you that I think we worked with. There was a woman.
And I sure thought we had talked about 21, not 24.
Well, that's going to. We still have to. We have to finish the scope, and we have to study the location, see what the right-of-way impacts are, do the design. So construction would be in 24.
If I may, Debbie, what grant did you say, the Parks and Rec grant would be used for a pedestrian or a bicycle overpass? You mentioned a grant for Parks and Rec.
Well, see, at that location, there's a trailhead on the north side of 54.
Okay.
So, and there's also some developments that are coming in. So there's a lot of, that is a very busy location. So conceivably, depending on where those ramps come down.
I'm trying to figure out where Parks and Rec comes into a bicycle overpass.
Well, they do the maintenance, I believe, at the trailhead as part of the Suncoast Trail. And they also received some funding to do bathroom facilities there. So they're a partner, they're a stakeholder in this too. So there's a lot of stakeholders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lots of people.
That trailhead's not gonna look like that in the future. It's gonna change.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have half an hour left.
All right, thanks. But I'm kind of, there's still nothing for people to get from the east side to the west side of the Suncoast safely. Back and forth. Frankly, it's even more dangerous now.
Okay, so looking at our study approach for this, so our study involved analysis of several components at each of the 3 locations that we end up looking at. This included an analysis of the traffic operations along the existing Suncoast Parkway main line, in addition to the operations at the existing 54 and 52 interchanges, and also the related downstream interchanges east and west of each of those locations. We also looked at and examined, we also worked on development of future traffic forecasts out to 2045, and the impact of each of these potential interchanges on those future traffic volumes. In addition to that, we completed some operational analysis, and we looked at a no-build and build scenario for each of the interchange alternatives that we'll go over. So we'll kind of we'll work our way kind of south to north. So the first location we'll be looking at is 54 on Tower Road. So when we initially began this study, the MPO submitted to us a proposed MPO configuration that you're looking at on the screen here. This is more of a collector distributor or a CD road system, and so what you're looking at here is that proposed configuration. What you see in the red there, on the red lines there, are kind of the CD roads on both sides of the existing Suncoast Parkway. And then the detailed A and B, you kind of see what happens at each of those interchange locations there. And so this design, we did take a look at this concept, and we integrated that into one of the concepts that we actually eventually looked at. And so at this particular interchange, we examined 3 different alternatives, including this one. And so integrating the MPO's concept with one of the alternatives that we looked at is what you're looking at here. This is alternative 1, and this came in this introduced a tight diamond interchange with the CD road system. This is again, this is our first alternative, and this came in at a construction cost of around $108.5 million. And again, this not only includes the construction of the interchange there, but also the construction of the CD roads that go from 54 up to Tower Road, to the Tower Road location. The next interchange concept that we looked at was the SPUI, or the single point urban interchange. This is our second alternative. You can see there in orange kind of the line work for this particular design. This came out at a construction cost of around $27.5 million. You can see that note there in the bottom right corner that this particular concept provides about 3,700 feet from that State Road 54 ramp gore I was talking about earlier. And the key here again is the more distance and the more space we can get between the interchanges, the better the operations are and the safer it is. You're typically looking for about a mile in between here, but again, the location of where Tower Road will be proposed and where the ramp gore from 54 is less than a mile. So trying to maximize that space between the two is one of the key things we looked at in looking at the concepts and the design. So our third alternative is the partial cloverleaf interchange, and again, you can see there this particular design provides about 4,600 feet from that ramp gore, and so this actually provides out of the 3 alternatives the maximum distance that we can kind of get in to safely get a good configuration for an interchange in here. This one came in at a construction cost of around $43.3 million. The ramps only is about 16.3. And so then also here on the map, what you can see here is those two kind of the polygons that are there in blue. Those are actually parcels that are already owned by the Turnpike. And so in terms of right-of-way acquisition and things like that, it would really just be left to the to kind of that southeastern parcel there. But in order to accommodate this design and this location, we're looking at about $43.3 million, and with the ramps on the north side of Tower Road there. And then this partial cloverleaf alternative ended up being our preferred alternative. So looking at some of the analysis results at CR 54, again, as I kind of talked about before, with the current program improvements that we covered before, the interchange should operate acceptably out to 2035. However, outside of 2035, we started to get into that as more traffic increases and more traffic gets on to State Road 54 from the developments and just the natural growth that happens there. We'll probably need to start considering other interchange improvements out to 2045 to satisfy that traffic demand. Some things such as interchange reconfigurations can be considered. So things looking at maybe like a DDI, for instance, that'll be something that can be considered, but it's something that we'd have to go out and probably do some more studies on that to see how that would work operationally. And so when looking at the proposed Tower Road interchange and looking at the considerations, again, this does not meet our typical interchange spacing standards, but there are some our concepts there. We can still kind of make that workable. The interchange does help the mainline operations and maintain the operations to work at an acceptable level. Looking at in terms of the actual traffic diversion, we're looking at about a 32% traffic diversion from the current 54 interchange that would actually use this one, so that's pretty good. And then this will help improve operations at the existing 54 interchange because of that traffic diversion. And not only does it actually yield acceptable operations at State Road 54, but also the downstream intersections along 54 going east and west from that location, they also see improved operations there as well from being able to use that new interchange. So again, our recommended concept is a partial cloverleaf, which is alternative 3. And the key part of this one is the funding of Tower Road as an actual project. The interchange itself, again, does have merit as a reliever, but again, the key part of this is, if we're able to go in and construct the Tower Road interchange, that Tower Road itself is built, and that it has something to connect to. So that's kind of the key thing here, is the existence of Tower Road.
May I comment?
Yeah.
So again, and I know we're pressed for time, but I just have to say this again. There is no way for the cyclists to get from one side of the Suncoast to the other. And if the turnpike's not going to let us go under the Sandy Branch opening, then we have to go over it. So we're either going to go over it, a tower, or maybe the flyover at 54 is some kind of T. And so Deborah, we may need to look at a more, like some kind of T flyover, where we also go over the Suncoast at 54, but there's got to be a way that we can move that kind of traffic from one side to the other. And I'm just worried that this road may be really far down in the calendar, and maybe the answer is to solve it when we do the flyover of the 54th. You know what I'm talking about? Are you a cyclist? I can't remember. Oh, you are. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do bike, yes.
Yeah.
Big wheel.
So we just have to find a solution for that. So, okay.
Commissioner Mariano.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see us, I don't know if the development committee can help, maybe we can do some things to make it work, but let me just ask you, when Ridge Road comes in, how much effect is that going to be on this section as well as the one down below?
So with Ridge Road coming in, with the combination of Ridge Road coming in with the program improvement that's happening with the triple lefts and dual rights, in addition to the expanded storage on both sides of the 54, the combination of those 3 improvements will help the interchange operate acceptably up to 2035. So that's part of that, is diverting some of that traffic up north. So when you look at all those improvements combined, that's the thing that helps that helps the operations there improve out to 2035. So that's one of the things that kind of comes into working.
So Ridge Road is factored into your numbers that are here?
I'm sorry?
Ridge Road is factored into the numbers that
Correct. When we did this analysis, we assumed that Ridge Road was constructed.
Okay. Now, when I look at the cost numbers here, 27.5 million for a much simpler road in construction, but you say because of the shortness of the difference between the 2 intersections, you want to have a broader loop. What are the difference of the interchanges going down towards Tampa? How close are they?
In terms of the spacing between them?
Spacing, yes, sorry.
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. It's just that what makes this one a little bit more tighter is, again, might be kind of hard to see here, is where that northbound ramp, when you're looking at the actual gore of where that ends to where we'll be looking at kind of fitting in where these concepts will be, it's particularly tight. So like I said, off the top of my head, I don't know the exact measurements of the ones that you're referring to, but when you're looking at between this particular concept, is if you see here where that kind of southern ramp kind of comes in, looking at the spacing between that gore to the other gore, that's only about 3,700 feet. So that's why that particular one is tight. And then this next one, if you notice there, the ramps here are actually on the north side of that, so that gives us a little more spacing, and that's why that one goes out to about 4,600 feet there.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd rather probably see the shorter, but I mean, just comparing to what's down south, I mean, do you have a lot of accidents down there? What's the comparison between the spacing? I'd like to get more information, take a look at that.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, so looking at the interchanges that we looked at that are at State Road 52 and then moving up north, just again to orient everybody, we looked at two interchange locations at Shady Hills, which is approximately 3 miles north of the existing State Road 52, and about 7 miles south of County Line Road. In addition to that, we looked at a location at Caldwell Lane, which is about another mile just north of Shady Hills, and about 6 miles south of County Line Road. And you see those two locations on the map here. So the first concept that we looked at was the location at Shady Hills, and what you can see there in yellow is kind of the conceptual line work here. But the key part of this is what you see there in orange, which is the Dr. Mary Giella Elementary School. And because of the proximity of this elementary school to where you'd be looking at kind of that southern configuration of where that ramp will come in, we didn't recommend it due to the traffic impacts that would come from this interchange and the proximity of that school. Even though we are, like currently we know that Shady Hills Road kind of serves as where I guess the pickup and drop off lane there in the morning and afternoon, and we are aware that there's some plans for that to shift toward the back side of the school. But again, even with that shifting there, just having the school location itself around there, where that ramp will be, we just recommended not going forward with that one due to how close and how that proximity will be. So with that one, we end up looking and further examining the location here at Caldwell Lane, and what you're looking at here is you can see kind of the line work here in yellow and green. This concept came at a construction cost of about $29 million, and you can see there again, the line work there, and then kind of the extensions, the improvements that would need to be happening to Caldwell Lane on both sides of at the Suncoast Parkway. So when we examine the State Road 52 interchange, the operations here were operating pretty well, and so we expect the existing interchange to handle future traffic demand through the year 2045, and this is even again taking into consideration the development that is proposed to be up there. We do expect that the interchange should be able to handle that demand through 2045. When we looked at the Caldwell Road interchange, actually from looking at our analysis there, we actually wouldn't even expect that much traffic diversion from State Road 52 as an interchange. We would actually end up seeing more diversion to County Line Road than we would to Caldwell Road in terms of an interchange. So we will, and the other key part of this is we will have traffic increases along Caldwell Road, which is right now is pretty rural and pretty low density residential. So it's something that will have to be considered as if you end up building an interchange there, you would now have increased traffic impacts to a place that doesn't really see all that many. So that's something that would have to be taken into consideration there. And in order to go forward with this one, this would require particular local funding and support. And again, the key part of that is making sure that that the locals in that area will kind of understand the potential traffic impacts there. And then also for this one to move forward, we would certainly kind of coordinate with with the board if they were to, to want to see this move forward. But local funding and support will be required in order for, to really work on looking at advancing this project.
I didn't know anything about that one. Did anyone else?
Yes.
Oh.
That was brought up, it's close to Denton Avenue. It runs all the way across over to 19, so we're taking a look at it. But
there's not.
it's definitely the other priorities are to the south at this point.
Any additional questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the Cody River Underpass project. Marielle's been working very hard on this. I will say before she starts, I was watching a press conference from the city of Port Richey the other day, and for some reason their city attorney made a statement along the lines of, we don't really care about an underpass because all of our residents live on the west side of 19. I'm not sure why the city attorney felt the need to speak on behalf of the city in that manner, but I called the city manager, Vince Lupo, yesterday and ran that by him, and he said that's not the case. The city of Port Richey is still on board with this project.
Good morning, Mary Helen Duke, Long Range Planning for Pasco County. As all the members are aware, the county and the city of Newport Richey and Port Richey entered into an interlocal agreement to conduct a feasibility study for phase 1 of the Cody River Trail, which is specific to the underpass of US 19 at the Cody River with connections, immediate connections to Bailey Avenue on the east side and to, I think it's River Trace on the north side. Paul Kurtz is here to provide an update. We apologize if any of you have already seen this. All of you have?
Is this from the West Side meeting?
Yes, from the joint city-county workshop
We were all
meeting.
I've seen it. Commissioner Moore has not, but.
Okay, so.
Okay, we're out of here, you can stay.
So Paul will go through it, we'll be very fast through the presentation so we can get to the discussion points at the end of his presentation.
I think you've all seen it, you don't need to run over it.
Good morning, thank you, Mary Helen. As she mentioned, most of you have already seen this presentation, so I will go rather quickly. Commissioner Moore, if you do have any questions, feel free to stop me.
I get the copies, everything, I'm good.
Okay, so Mr. Kurtz, not to.
Yeah, we need the
cut off,
discussion.
Yeah, we've seen the presentation.
Sure.
If we can move on to the discussion, that would be awesome.
Sure, let's go to the
Just for
end.
the sake of time, I apologize, but thank you for all your hard work.
I get it, it's getting close to time. So what I'll do is just go to the last two. The recommended alternatives were B and D. It was pretty much unanimous that B was the preferred choice. So that is what we're recommending with the $3.6 million, or rather, yeah, $3.6 million price tag. Next steps are really to get this body to endorse that alignment, and then we can finalize the report.
You're not looking for a motion, no, it's not an action item, right? Just a verbal?
Yeah. Move forward.
It's not an action item, correct?
That's
correct. So everyone's in support of it. While we have DOT here, there's been some discussions whether or not, obviously this is very important to this board and to the city of Newport Richey and Pasco County, in respect to being able to lower the grade to have golf carts go underneath US 19, and we need approval from FDOT on that. So if we could just have a brief discussion on FDOT's.
Yeah, real quick, and I'm not sure if you all have met with our staff to talk about your concept or not, but afterwards.
Initially, we have.
I'd like to talk to you afterwards. Sure. There's a few things in there that I'm concerned about.
Okay.
We're not concerned about an underpass. We're not concerned about putting golf carts to go underneath US 19. What we are concerned about is how it gets, once it goes under, how it gets back to a public right-of-way. Because if it goes into a private property, of course, the private property, he can change his mind in the future, say, I don't want the liability of them carts on my property, I shut it off, and then you got nothing. The concepts I just looked at, and I hadn't seen some of these concepts before, we are not allowed to combine a sidewalk with a golf cart path. And I think the one I saw showed you having the golf cart paths and the pedestrians in the same path. By statute, we're not allowed to do that. You have to have the sidewalk for pedestrians. It cannot put a motorized vehicle on the sidewalk.
Whether FDOT fund is
It's a law.
funding it or
It's
not,
not even
Okay.
an engineering judgment. We cannot put, now what we did do down in Sun City Center was we worked with Hillsborough County where they put a golf cart path in next to the sidewalk. We conveyed the right-of-way to the county because we also can't use federal money for that, and we can run into issues with the maintenance and all of it. So what we would likely do if you built this, is to move it over. Now, I went out last week, as did Richard and Ed with me, to look at the location, because we're trying to figure out how could this work. I'm not sure if the engineering analysis has gone into enough detail to see if this is truly feasible to do within the existing right-of-way. I have concerns. I think you'd have to work with the adjacent property owners to figure out how to make that work. So we're not opposed to it. I'm not saying we're opposed to it. What I'm saying is that I think there has to be a little more engineering analysis done to see if you can do this within the existing right-of-way and if you can tie back to a public facility so that it's just not wasted money if somebody on either end decides someday. I could see it, you know, somebody changes ownership of the restaurant, you get a big corporation come in there, they say, I don't want the liability of a golf cart running between backing cars and there are people drinking there and all that. You just don't know. So we'd like to have the ability to make sure that it goes up to a public facility. Just 30 seconds, I know you're tight. The appropriations, and I hear a lot about appropriations, and I know everybody wants to put them in. I just want to remind everybody that money's not new money. When they put appropriations, the legislators do, that money comes out of my budget. This last year, our district had 4 times as many appropriation bills in dollar size than any other district in the state, and they've said it's on the districts to cover that. So I had to come up with $25 million this year to cover appropriations in District 7. I'm hearing from all the counties appetites for bigger appropriations this year. What I did in the current fiscal year is I basically stripped almost all my contingencies out. I put contingencies in my projects because sometimes we run into overruns or we run into unforeseen circumstances or we have a bid that comes in higher. What I'm worried about is next year, if there's more appropriations, I'm gonna have to start deferring projects. So I'd encourage you, before you put an appropriation bill in, talk to us, see if we can find another way to work it around before it goes to an appropriation. And also remember, if it's vetoed, we can't do anything with you for a year. But I just want to throw that pitch in. But I think there needs to be a little more analysis on, can this feasibly be put in where you have a pedestrian facility and then you have the golf cart facility adjacent to it.
Mr. Kurtz, you're obviously on that then.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Mariano.
Mr. Secretary, if I could, and then maybe this might be even a question for you, but if you get 18 foot of width, can you designate 2 of the lanes for the golf carts going both ways in that same specter and then have a lane for the bikes and pedestrians?
Yeah, the golf cart path, I'm not sure, you may know more about the golf cart path because we don't really design golf cart paths, that's not what we do, but we would need at least the 5-foot sidewalk for pedestrians. What you do outside of that really would be more of a...
If I might, this is taken from what Pasco County is doing in the connected city, which is golf carts and pedestrians on the same path. They've designated separate areas for them. It's 18 feet width, 12 of which is for golf cart and 6 of which is for bike path.
So we said that if that can fit in the right of way, does that suffice to what we want to do?
Just to be clear, we're not proposing.
They're not proposing this, I don't think.
No, what I was going to say, sorry to interrupt, but we're not proposing to do it all within FDOT of right of way. There is a proposal that we do need some additional land. So we realize that you can't do it all within there. So the actual,
I just want to make sure
that doesn't include everything within. So maybe it would help to look at this particular diagram. The areas in red are the ones that we propose we need some additional land. So we'll tie back essentially into the public right of way at this point and then at this point as well. So we cross the private property into private properties that we do tie back into the public right of way. So that's always been the
And then, Mr. Kurtz, on the east side, there is an opportunity for land acquisition there, correct?
The areas in red are the...
No, the east side, I'm sorry, the bottom side, right there. There's an old welding shop, and part of that land was for sale. I'm not sure if it still is, I'm sure you...
Yeah, where Bailey ends,
Yes.
there's a gap there
Right.
between the DOT right of way and the end of Bailey. So there's a short portion that is needed.
And you're working closely, obviously, with the owners of Rum River and Ketchy.
Yes, there have been meetings with the property owners.
Confidential meetings. Commissioner Mariano.
Yes, so onto the catcher's side of the property. You can't quite see it, but on the back side of the property to the top of the screen that's kind of cut off, there's a piece of property that runs across there. Catcher's now owns the marina to the side. which is public. Before it wasn't public, so we couldn't
Just got
talk
it up
about
where
it.
you can see there.
So that, where it says Bridge Street to the top. So I think there's a potential for a land swap where you could probably work with them, because I really don't want golf carts going to back of catches anyway. So if they would get them up to the top part where it would hit down to River Gulf, that could work. And if they could do probably a swap, they'd probably go along with that. They'd probably reconfigure the parking lot to make it happen. So there's a potential to make that happen, to make that, make it a reality, but it'll take going through. I think we wanted to make sure we covered the golf cart capability with it, but if that's all we gotta do is make the right-of-way fit, if you can make that right-of-way fit so it fits around there, I think if you go back to them to say, okay, here's what we need from you, I think we could potentially get this thing done.
And the county owns that section you're talking about, Bridge Street?
The city of Port Richey owns it.
City of Port Richey owns it, okay.
Let me ask the mayor what he thinks. Oh, never mind.
Yes, Maria.
The parking lot at Catches would need to be reconfigured, and we know that, and so that would be part of the design and engineering. This is just the feasibility study, so
Right.
there's still other steps that we have to go through to know that fully that it is possible, but based on the feasibility study, we believe it is possible. It is going to require a special exception from the Florida Department of Transportation to allow for that underpass, and there's a defined process through the Department of Transportation and USDOT in terms of how we make those requests, and so we will have to send an official letter to FDOT, have them evaluate it. We haven't been at that point yet. We're still in the draft study phase right now, so it's a little premature for us. We wanted to make certain that the MPO board was also endorsing alternate B as their preferred alternate before we made those official outreach to FDOT to say, this is what we're thinking about doing. Now we want your input and feedback before we finalize the study.
And we are correct? We'll endorse alternate B, yes, okay. Any addition, Commissioner Mariano?
Yes, and Mr. Secretary, your team is phenomenal. We greatly appreciate always working with us and trying to get stuff done, and you guys have been absolutely tremendous. If we take a look at this coming forward, to try to make this so it's golf cart connections, there was another project down in DeSoto that you guys were looking at as well. If you can incorporate that, if that saves money, if it's better, if it's a less expensive way to go, I think it's something we should take a look at. I think you've seen the pictures, I'm sure. Okay, so I know we couldn't get the numbers because it's part of a bridge project and all, but I think it's every alternative to get that number down would probably be good, as long as it works to the goal we're trying to accomplish.
I have those pictures.
If you want to show them, that'd be great, sure. This is a project down in DeSoto that someone posted on Facebook. What about something like this? So I don't know if it's any better or worse, but there's an alternative to look at that someone else has done it, so.
What else do we have?
Well, while we're waiting for him to pull that up, there is the concept of funding fairness in that the bicycle trail projects come from particular funding sources through FDOT and Federal Highway, and they're specific to non-motorized transportation. And so we will have to look at other funding sources to fund any trail that does allow for golf carts. And we know that. Whether or not FDOT would allow a certain amount from those funds be provided for bike ped with anything needed above and beyond for the golf cart coming from other funding sources like Penny for Pasco, in some future year, or municipal funding, or some other funding source. That's something that needs to be determined. And as we move forward in this process, we'll be looking at all those different funding alternatives in terms of what would be the best way to approach that. And we've got some questions that do have to be posed to FDOT before we can make those decisions.
Perfect. Well, thank you both.
Where is this one right here? Memorial Causeway.
It's Clearwater Beach. It's a pedestrian underpass.
Yeah.
Is that a pedestrian
On the west side of it.
bridge also? Wait, can you go back to that?
It's under-
What is along the south there?
That's pedestrian bridge,
Wow,
separated from the track.
nice.
Well, thank you both for all your hard work. Secretary Gwynn, thank you for your input as well from MetDOT. We appreciate it very much. Just a couple other business. There's a TMA, Pinellas Suncoast TMA meeting, Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority Boardroom on November 8th, 2019, 9:30 to 12. Safe Street Summit on November 14th in Tampa. And if there's no other business to come before this body, we're going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.